Blockchain Capital.
What's up? I'm excited to be out here. Come up here. I was just talking to Byron there. He was coming to Meetup since 2013, and then he said people stopped coming to Meetups after Mt. Gox crashed. And then Meetups only started again in 2016, so it's actually pretty interesting. But yeah, so I'm specifically, for my fund, I'm specifically looking to get into pre-ICO sales. So there's a couple particular people I want to talk to here. But then, so talk to me afterwards, and then thank you, Austin, for putting this together. I'll give the microphone back to you.
Thank you, and thanks to our other sponsors, WeWork, of course, for hosting this event and always being gracious and amazing. Great, thank you so much. We've got Abra, Trinet, where's Raha in the house, and Lauren. Thank you so much, you guys. You want to say a quick word? You good? Okay, you good. All right, let's just jump right into it then, because we're going to run out of time. We have a hard stop at 9 o'clock. WeWork's got to go home, so thanks so much. We got Michael Turpin here, Transform Group, Justin Wu, Coin Circle, Jason Roberts, Hello Segoy, Raleigh Harbor, Genesis Block, Taylor Mohan von Myetherwallet, and Daniel Rice, Bootstrap Legal. So let's kick it off. If you guys want to do a quick intro of yourself and what your company does, just like 1 minute, and then after that we'll jump into some questions.
Sure, I'm Michael Turpin. I run Transform Group. We have offices on the Virginia Promenade, based in Puerto Rico, and all over the place. We've got about 40 people. We are the number one PR firm in the space. We've done 70 ICOs, including guys in quite a few as well, and we did Ethereum and Augur and Bancor and Dash, and we just did Wax this year and Salt, and also I advise a lot of companies, and been able to get as the blockchain capital into the pre-ICO round. So, and I also am a general partner at Blockchain Fund, which is a $3 million fund on payments.
Cool. My name is Justin Wu. I run head of growth at Coin Circle. Coin Circle, we tokenize established companies and enterprises. We work on projects such as Unicoin Gold, which is the Mark Cuban esports-backed token. And we work with a lot of Transform as well on a lot of projects. And then I'm also involved with growth marketing on ICOs such as ShipChain, that did 30 million, ApeCoin, 50 million, bringing outcomes to the blockchain. Another one is TrueBit, which is a Ethereum scaling project and protocol upgrades. And I just help with the whole growth process all the way from idea, white paper, all the way down to public, pre, and the actual public sale, and even post sale too, because a lot of tokens are forgetting about actually taking care of people. So we're looking to grow the community out here.
Hey everybody, my name is Jason Robert, and I'm co-founder of Hello Segoy, and we sell event tickets on the blockchain. We launched our products June of this year, or last year, about 6 months ago, and I've since sold about 1,500 tickets to events all over the planet. Some popular events include BlockCon, that was here in Santa Monica, Ethereal SF up in San Francisco. And yeah, if you guys want to learn more about event ticketing and how it applies to the blockchain, that's what I'm here for. Sorry.
Raleigh Harbor, I'm managing partner of a company called Genesis Block. We are a venture production studio, which essentially means we help companies to integrate blockchain technology into their business, their core platform, and then execute strategic initiatives. What that means practically is advisory, kind of like a... Can you speak up a little? Sure. It's rare that I get asked to speak up, so I'll do my best. What that means practically is a couple things. One, strategic advisory, like a Bain or McKinsey. Two, outsource development. Code our team, codes and Solidity in Hyperledger. And three, last but not least, is PR marketing. So we work with great companies to help them to unlock the potential of blockchain technologies like Hello Segoy.
Hi everyone, I'm Taylor Mohan. I'm the founder of Myetherwallet, and for those that don't know, Myetherwallet is an Ethereum wallet. We started as a really, really simple interface back in August of 2015, and we have just grown exponentially ever since then, and we love every second of this adventure and are super, super stoked to be here and meet all of you.
my name is Dan Rice, and I am the CTO for a company called Bootstrap Legal. We're currently working on something called SageWise, which is a platform for dispute resolution on the blockchain. We tend to think that smart contracts are smart, but sometimes they aren't, and for those cases, that's where we come in to help resolve those disputes, and we're building a wrapper layer for smart contracts. My co-founder is a securities attorney, and together we just realized that there's kind of a bridge that's needed between this smart contract world and the real world, and that's what we're doing.
Great, thanks so much, guys. We're going to jump into some questions. I just wanted to mention really quick, since we are Blockchain Beach, we're supporting cleaning the beaches around the world, removing the plastic, from the ocean. So we have a non-profit, Xanadu, that's in the house, and we're running, beautiful Esme right here is running an auction for them.
Or like, just help me, please. And we basically were just like, oh my God, we have no idea what to do. So 2017 was building the team, trying not to live in this state of chaos all the time, user education, really figuring out how we can best support people in the community. And so this year, I'm trying to call it the year of stability, where we're gonna, our team has meshed. We have almost a team of 20 now, I think. We're almost 100% distributed, so the core operations is here in Los Angeles. We have devs all over the world, we have support all over the world. And 2018 is gonna be about really buttoning down the hatches around user education, the user experience. We're going to have new design. We're doing a full new code base, which is undergoing audits as we speak. We have a new desktop app. We're going to have new mobile apps. And we're going to actually start moving private keys out of the browser because we realized that was like a really terrible idea that we shouldn't have never done. So we're basically going to retrain everyone that you don't put your private key anywhere ever at all, period, end of conversation. And we're going to keep them in the apps, and hopefully that will reduce both the phishing that we see on Myetherwallet, but also more commonly the fake ICO sites, the fake airdrop sites, the fake Ethereum fork sites, the fake, they just promise free money and people give them their private keys. They don't even have to ask for their private keys. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Hopefully 2018 we can, cut down on the loss, we can educate people, and we can have people really dive deep into this ecosystem and, learn to love it as much as we do.
So next we got a question for Mr. Wu. Justin, how you doing? Justin's been a big supporter. He's been coming to our meetups for a while, so thanks so much. I'm going to hand you the mic, but first, I guess tell us your favorite success story with CoinCircle. We know a few, and also how do you see ICO ratings agencies?
Yeah, well, Unicorn Gold is our first kind of public project. We have more tokens coming in down the line that we're not really kind of publicly announced yet, but in the next probably month or two, the way that we're working with a lot of these companies is looking at do they actually have a real purpose and need to build a token? Do they actually have transaction value? Do they actually have a product and users? That's how we kind of evaluate it, and that's the same thing that I usually like to evaluate all the tokens that I work with. In terms of the success stories, we're looking at helping support tokens throughout the whole stages of the company, and even helping them launch to build up that full crypto community. And the way that I've approached a lot of marketing and growth, where before I got into crypto, full crypto growth and marketing was really about storytelling and doing a lot of branding and a lot of strong content marketing to then communicate, build a community, build a real brand, and really build that up whenever you are launching your own tokens. I know that as a token founder, you have a lot of bases to cover, from the engineering, legal, business, partnership side, and then if you think about the crypto community, they're on every single channel, from just people talking to Reddit, Twitter, Telegram. So it's coming up with solutions to be omnipresent, to create content efficiently and fast, and building up a communication strategy for all the tokens that we're working with as well. What was the second part of the question too? What's the future?
There was another part that actually didn't mention it, which was as far as those strategies, what do you find most cost effective? We got some people out here doing ICOs. Is it Facebook? Is it email? Is it online? I know you have to be careful of some of the Facebook and Instagram ads if you're paying for them, and depending on what type of ICO you're doing. So here you go.
Yeah, each of the ICOs that I've kind of looked at has different strategies and campaigns. The best selling point is always the one that the ones that are actually building an interesting product or actually has products for users. We're looking at like a brand new ICO that's coming that I'm not involved with. One's called Gem. Gem, they built an alpha product first, and then now they're like Telegram is like 50,000 users. And then they didn't have a crazy bounty program, they didn't have a crazy airdrop either. And the full like dev community and actually the whole community just like really pushed and amped that through. In terms of like actual campaigns, you know, there are campaigns out there that have spent 1 million, 2 million, 3 million on paid acquisition and ads. That is a strategy, but that's heavier on the more of the crowd sale side. And then in terms of the it isn't a single strategy. I always say that just because like ads work for one campaign, you want to hit every single strategy and be omnipresent. So it's a combination of going through down the line with story points, create the story first, then disseminate that to PR press releases in your internal blog, then push that out to all your single channels from Telegram, Reddit, subreddits, any channel partners, influencers as your distribution. So focus on the story point first. Everything else is a distribution channel. Find what works for you, and then go out there. So.
Jump in.
You know, I couldn't agree with that more. I think we're going through an interesting cycle right now, but there's so much noise and attention focused on ICOs. And I believe and hope that it'll return back to the core things that will make the project successful. And the way you do that is build that organic following by having something really exciting, interesting, and innovative that you're doing with the project. I worked in digital advertising for a time, and I believe that's effective. But the core has to be built through what you're doing, not how you market it, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree. Thank you. All right, Mr. Jason, how you doing?
Great, how you doing?
Very well,
Your
thank
hair
you.
looks good.
Oh, thank you.
It's a special.
It's a wig, yeah.
No.
All right, so you just came back from a pretty wild world tour, you know, getting out on the road, talking to everybody, meeting and greeting. I know you're also selling tickets to consensus events, so that's amazing. Congrats, so you're doing big things. Tell us, you know, about the future of your events platform. What are we looking out for in the future, and how do we, you know, get involved? How do we sell tickets to Blockchain Beach on your platform?
Well, the last part I can address easily, tickets.hellosugoi.com.
Right.
You just go there. So think of us as a decentralized Eventbrite, whereby any one of you can interact with the smart contract on Ethereum, fill out some information about the event, deploy the smart contract to the Ethereum main network by creating your event, and then your customers can purchase those tickets with Ether. It's really that simple. Moving forward, we are looking to address the event ticketing and entertainment industry, which is notoriously slow to move in regards to innovation. It's relationship driven first. The technology, well, there's been really wonderful technologies for many, many years that the industry is slow to adopt. So market penetration for us is difficult when it comes to selling tickets beyond just cryptocurrency focused events, which has largely been our initial market play. So for 2018, we're looking to integrate, collaborate, and work with some of the larger blue chip entertainment companies in Hollywood in an effort to leverage smart contracts in a way that makes sense to solve their problems. We're not looking for problems to solve and then launching a token based on some pretend academic idea that we have. We're looking to work with them in an effort to really identify how, or if at all, blockchains make sense in a commercial level. I think it's really important for us that we're building products that add value to people's lives. And we want to iterate and build over time these organic relationships with the industry. In addition to building a product that makes sense, whereby any consumer can interact with the Hello Sugoi application and not know that they're using blockchain. So we've been working really hard on our user interface right now. It's a bit sparse, but there's just a small team of us building out these technologies. It's really interesting. I think there's a tremendous market validation for a blockchain verified event ticket. Scalping is a big problem. Fake tickets are a big problem. The industry has validated that, and now it's a matter of us integrating and working with them to build real products that solve real problems.
Thank you. Raleigh, since you're right beside him, I got a question for you. So you're advising a lot of blockchain, been, you know, helping a lot of people, doing a lot of big things. What notable projects would you like to comment on And do you see a bright future for US-based projects, or should we fear the SEC, or should we work with them? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of questions there. Maybe I'll start with the last one, the SEC, the U.S. regulatory bodies. So, when anybody, it sounds like a number of the people here in the audience are considering or pursuing ICOs. The fact of the matter is that where you set up, from an SEC standpoint, where you set up your company doesn't matter. The SEC will find you if you're doing the wrong things. If you're selling a token as a utility, and they deem it to be an unregulated security, it doesn't matter if you're based here in the US or in Asia or in Europe or wherever you are, you're selling to US investors. What is much more relevant from where you set up your company is the taxes. The IRS and such. If you do it the right way, and if you have the right legal and accounting advice, you can take what is a fairly disadvantaged tax structure when you're selling a utility token and turn it into something that at least minimize your tax burden. So that's probably the biggest thing to think about from an international standpoint, from a regulatory. The other thing I would say is, like, if you're considering offshore, think about the practical implications of it. Think about the fact that you're going to be flying back and forth to do investor calls or token purchaser calls, better stated. Think about the fact you've got to set up a team there. Michael may be able to give more insight into some of the projects he's worked with. Yeah, for sure. But practically speaking, there's a lot of work and investment that has to go into that. And so you need to be wise and have a good advice to make that decision.
There's a lot of misinformation in this category right now. You can talk to 10 lawyers and get 10 different answers because the SEC is not clear about certain areas. But given the actual laws and not the fantasy of what an interpretation of the law 5 years from now might look back at and what they would do for that, the fact that the DAO was absolutely clearly a security and they didn't put anybody in jail, they just said this is your warning shot, don't be a security, means that I think they're not trying to kill the entire industry. They're just simply trying to get rid of the bad players. And the ones that they've gone after have really been blatant securities, or they've done things like Munchie, where they said, hey, here's how you flip it, before it even trades. So as far as what I recommend to companies, having talked to many lawyers having done 70 ICOs, the best practice these days for an American company, in my opinion, is to go to a zero tax jurisdiction, B and C countries in the Caribbean, BVI and Caymans and Barbados, Bermuda, Bahamas, and there's reasons to do Costa Rica, even Belize. See which one works for you. And you only sell your token there. That's the equivalent of your Livingstone petition. But it doesn't have to be a nonprofit. It can be a for-profit because it's in a zero-tax jurisdiction. This is not rocket science. Every hedge fund in New York is not based in New York, paying New York and U.S. taxes. They are in the Caymans, they are in BVI. And there's lawyers down there that know all the tax and implications for doing it. For this model, they become expert really quickly because there's the $4 billion of ICOs. I'd say about probably $1 billion went through the Caribbean. Then what you do to not be having to fly back and forth to sell things is you only do a token purchase agreement. Do not do a SAF because a SAF itself is a security. That's the big mistake that people make. Once you get down that path, you have all sorts of tax issues of having a security and then having a tax difference of the actual non-security you sell. And the fact that the IRS is going to tax you for your utility token because you're not giving up any part of the company alone means you're not supposed to go pretend. Some people are giving bad advice where they're giving the worst of both worlds. They're saying, apply, do a PPM, Reg D, all this, act like you're security, but pay the taxes out of it because you're not a security. It's crazy, it's madness. What you do is you do two companies. One is simply to sell the token. It's like your own private Linux foundation. And the money sits there and you don't pay any taxes on it. And you have one employee over there. And that's somebody who probably maybe worked for the law. And their sole thing that they do there is basically just, they're responsible for the care and feeding of the token. They'll do hackathons, they'll do bounties, and they'll decide what to do with the tokens that have been raised to go and perpetuate the growth and the stability of the token. And the first thing they're going to do is interview the people from the for-profit company in the U.S., the Delaware and Nevada Corp, and say, if you agree to go and accept the token and only the token for your core products, we're going to go and invest in you. So now all of a sudden you go from doing everything in the U.S. and if in California you would literally pay 50% of everything you took in for doing a Silicon Valley safe ICO. you're just costing yourself about a $50 million raise. You're costing yourself $20-something million in taxes you have to take immediately and pay California and the IRS. You're saving that by going to BVI. And then you're also saving the net operating loss because you're going to take an investment in. And when you start getting profitable, your next $50 million, you don't pay taxes on it. So that to me is best practice. I'm happy to refer people to lawyers who think that way.
And I would say, just to clarify for people who
something he touched on before with smart contract resolutions. So as the CTO of your company, you know a lot about that, and tell us more about how these smart contracts can be resolved, and more about your system and how it's going to become a major issue in this new programmable economy when things go awry and the contract doesn't play as it's supposed to. So tell us about all that.
So in 2016, I think there was around $50 million lost in cryptocurrency space from hacks and bugs and all kinds of things that can happen in software. A lot of times you can lose money even if there's not a hack for a lot of reasons. And in 2017, that number has been estimated to be over $1 billion. So the amount of money that's being lost in the space through all these different kinds of issues, there's bugs, there's hacks, there's just coding errors that can cause money to be locked up, like we saw with the Parity Hack 2. There's also other reasons why you might have an issue with a contract. When we look at contracts in the traditional world, sometimes people just want to get out of them. Maybe the situation has changed or whatever. And with smart contracts, you're kind of stuck into this, it's executing on its own, you can't stop it once it gets started. So that's basically what we're looking at, is we're building a system where you can get out of a smart contract based on what could be seen as kind of an arbitration clause that's placed in that smart contract from the beginning at the point that it's created, such that if you have the activation credentials, you can actually throw that contract into dispute and freeze it if there's a reason to do so. So that's what we do. And also, I just want to say one other thing. If you're someone here who was listening to what was said before and said, hey, that's me, I lost some money in an ICO, or an exchange won't give me my money back, or any of those things, love to talk to you, and also join our Telegram, which is SageWise, because we're trying to get a hold of all the dispute resolution issues in the space.
Like 500 a day. All like CC on all of us.
All right, we got a question here from Sandeep with the BNFT team for Raleigh, actually.
Hi there again. So just digging deeper, so I guess, there are a lot of people who are obviously interested in ICOs and, backed by genuine technology, and I completely agree with your comments. So we talked a lot about the US. Now, outside the US, we talked about the tax piece, so it's Cayman Islands, some people are talking about Switzerland and so on. Is there any country in the world, any geography, which is really supportive of, blockchain businesses, crypto trading? I heard about Gibraltar. So it's like the first country to come out with laws which are blockchain friendly, and they're focusing more on fintech thanks to Ripple and what have you. So any perspective on that?
So I think we covered a couple of them already. In the Caymans, there was decades worth of experience around setting up entities to make sure they're tax advantaged. So that's clear, as Michael was describing, there's tremendous opportunity there. Gibraltar's another one that people look at a lot. Switzerland has been very lean forward in a lot of areas around blockchain, both from a regulatory standpoint as well from just building on infrastructure and a lot of the things that an ecosystem like blockchain needs to be successful is there. There are also places in Asia, with respect to the regulatory environments, it really is a country-by-country basis. But those would be the main ones, and you can read the articles about which country is making a decision and how they're shifting, etc. from there.
So every country has a good cop and a bad cop. The good cops are the tax guys, the economic development. They're like, hey, come on down, we're going to give you tax breaks with no taxes and that. And the bad cops are the central banks and regulators. And you have to look at any jurisdiction and see whether they're talking to each other and they're in agreement. It was very embarrassing a couple of years ago when the Isle of Man did a whole bunch of press saying, we're going to be the new crypto-friendly regime, we're calling it Crypto Island. They brought all these people over there to have a conference, and the first day of the conference, the Isle of Man central banker said, I don't want all these Bitcoin people here, what the hell are you doing? And so you have to avoid situations like that. In Puerto Rico, where I'm a resident, it is a U.S. territory, so you don't need a new passport. The new administration is very crypto-friendly. There's an event, 2 events actually. One is called Puerto Crypto. It's going to be March 14th to 16th that the governor is speaking at, and the secretary of economic development. So good job. And the day after that is my event. The second year we're doing this. Coin Agenda Caribbean, which is a high-end investor event. It's March 17th to 19th. We have the early bird tickets on the site. You know, in between those two, it's pretty much going to be Blockchain Week to learn about the Caribbean as well as Puerto Rico. And I'm planning on having at least 20 countries from friendly jurisdictions. Gibraltar always comes to my conferences. They're probably #1 in the world right now in terms of just having the combination of tax and legislative, and they have the Gibraltar stock market now is the first to really have tokenized securities. So that's exciting. Malta's making noise that they want to be blockchain friendly. Dubai's making noise. Mauritius actually started calling themselves Ethereum Island. Estonia has got the e-residency, and so there's a few other ones. So it's a good time to investigate these things. You do have a lot of choice in where you actually do your token sale. And you know, unfortunately, you know, the U.S. and particularly New York are not a place to do business.
What about Liberland?
So Liberland doesn't really exist. I'm actually I have a call scheduled. Liberland wants us to do their PR. But it'll be interesting. So you know, I mean, I think that there are a number of different experiments. Special economic zones have been something over time that you've been able to experiment with things. You know, Liechtenstein right now is an interesting area because it has a relationship with the Swiss banks, but it doesn't have its own central bank, and there's just interesting things. I'm involved right now in setting up an exchange there with one of my advisory clients, and so there's this interesting stuff ahead. And you know, one of the things in Puerto Rico that's been talked about, I don't know how far it's going to go, was the idea of paying off the debt by basically making a little Singapore at the end of the island and basically making it an independent country that buys its freedom by paying off the debt. So, there's a little area that's a sort of old Air Force base there, Saba, that literally could become like the Singapore of the Caribbean. So.
Michael, it sounds like you could use some Hello Sugoi to sell some tickets to your events. Let's talk afterwards. I'm shameless, by the way.
All right, curveball, Gray Bright. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Great. Let's hear that Australian accent on the mic. Do you have a question for anybody up here?
Actually, in terms of the ICO, where do you think is the central location to gather information? Because I'm sure a lot of the people in here are like, the information that we've got tonight is incredible. Where is the best source? Twitter? Yeah?
Twitter about it. No Bitcoin talk. There's so many silos right now. So what we're saying originally was Slack. Then everyone decided that like Slack is prone to phishing, so they moved to Telegram. Guess what? Telegram's also prone to phishing. You didn't solve anything by moving to one central platform to another. But yeah, there's a ton of silos. If you're really into a project, definitely look on their website at the very bottom in the footer for all those little icons. Like wherever they hang out, that's where you're gonna get in touch with developers and stuff. So yeah, but I would say Twitter #1 for me right now.
And like you said, it was Slack just 6-9 months ago.
Yeah. We're still on Slack.
Wow, Twitter.
Well, I love Twitter because it's fast. Like, I loved Reddit when I had more time to spend talking to people. But Twitter forces me to be concise, and I'm, like, not a concise person, and I have to have that to, like, get through the days now.
And there's still a decent critical mass in Telegram. You know, a lot of projects
Oh,
are
yeah,
using
yeah.
Telegram
A
now.
lot
Sure,
are
that-
moving to
I think most are on Telegram right now.
I would say most new ICOs are using Telegram over Slack, right? Yeah.
And you know, once you're actually trading or have your ticker, you put a $sign and the symbol. put a dollar sign in the symbol, you can track how it's doing. So if you want to find out if everything's going on with Ethereum, you do dollar sign ETH, and that's particularly usable for the smaller, newer ones to sort of see what the sentiment is. And there's all sorts of paid services that will tell you the stochastics and tell you the 200-day moving averages, and depending on how far you want to go down the rabbit hole of being a day trader, Twitter points you to a lot of resources.
And I would say also CoinMarketCal shows you a lot of the news and updates out there. Since there's a lot of fake news all over, they have a lot of verified updates on each of the tokens and news updates, and like ICO drops, ICO stats for like the latest upcoming ICOs. But I'll give you my personal strategy. There's a few ways. It's just going to actually talk to the people that's really in the business of blockchain, from like everybody up here to like PR agencies to actual token founders. Again, I'm talking to like the Ethereum developers as well, talking to other guys that interface with a lot of ICOs too, because they start seeing the internal stuff and then working on a lot of projects too. Like, and that's the most inside signal. That's the reason why I went full all in on kind of like working in the B2B side of blockchain, so I can just like interface with this and actually see what if this crypto and blockchain is real, and give a real kind of vetted signals or vetted talk with other people that are actually in the business of it. So that's my point.
$1. So even if the price of Aspire went up, 1,000x, it would still be so it's built in very low gas. And that's because of all these things happening. When they become popular, they all of a sudden, become asset creation layers that have a problem with the gas price, and we're basically saying we can fix that. And so, it'll be, compatible with people used 30% of the entire public blockchain, the top 100 a few years ago, were built on Counterparty because it was very easy to use, but the gas prices basically just made it unusable. And so we're looking to take, large parts of the programming community from Counterparty that's established, and Counterparty also has an EVM that's built in it, and we've inserted that as well, so you can also build asset layers on the Ethereum virtual machine, also with this low gas Aspire.
And I think all these issues, these problems are good because they expose the weaknesses, and you have a lot of smart people that really care about this technology working on creating those solutions. And we're in a growth stage. The technology is largely embryonic. There's very little use case beyond token generations that we've seen so far. I'm long on blockchain, like really long on blockchain. I think cryptocurrency is just one of the applications of blockchain technology. It's just one of the apps in the App Store, and the blockchain is the iPhone. So I think there's a lot of tremendous growth in this space that we're going to see. And there's going to be some bumps in the road, like gas fees, for example, or scalability issues. But those are being addressed, and we have really intelligent people working on them and attempting to build solutions. It has to happen for this stuff to go really mainstream beyond just this get-rich-quick scheme that many of us see it as it is.
Yeah, speaking to that, we do have a little technical question here from James about actual integration with technology.
Do you all think that we're going to see kind of a arms race in processing and mining power? Or do you think we'll see, like with Devlio, where they can stake on Raspberry Pi? Do you think we're going to see people kind of have more accessibility as miners, stakers, or do you think it's going to continue to be like big silos that have the main stake? Because that kind of seems like it defeats part of the point of decentralization. If there's 8 people that have all the processing power, and if you need $30,000 to mine a rig for a $1,000 coin, do you see it continuing to go that way, or are people really trying to make it more accessible to people that don't have access to this kind of technologies?
Wasn't the idea of Ethereum to mine
Yeah.
make it really simple?
I think why do you know? I'm not a miner.
So I think, going back to proof of work, which was what Bitcoin started with, obviously there was this concept that Satoshi put out, which is one CPU, one vote. And when you think about true decentralization, I think the ultimate thing that you're looking for is one human, one vote. And one CPU, one vote is pretty good as a representation of that. It's not great, but maybe it's the best that we can come up with. And unfortunately, because of unforeseen circumstances for most people, that's all centralized for Bitcoin, mostly in China now, in a few mining farms, and mostly controlled by a single ASIC manufacturer. So for the most part, I think proof of work is a failed experiment long term because of that, and Ethereum's moving away from it to something called proof of stake because of that, probably partially, but also just because Bitcoin's burning so much energy that it's really a danger to our planet in the long term if it were to take off even further. So I think we haven't fully realized it yet, but there's also another reason why proof of work has failed, and that's because now that cryptocurrency is worth so much, botnets are actually mining it, and I don't want to be owning a cryptocurrency to find out that it's mostly owned by botnet owners. And so just in general, I think proof of work is dead, and we're just kind of starting to realize that, but haven't fully accepted it as a community yet.
Yeah, I completely agree with your points. I think that, also what you said, Jason, like, we have to go through this process together and see what fails and see what works in order to kind of come out the other side. And like, proof of stake would not be able to exist without proof of work. And whatever's beyond that, whatever, I think what's really interesting is projects are going to need different solutions, and every solution is going to be different, and the size is going to be different, and whether or not the coin is highly speculative is going to be different. And so I think what we're going to see is a lot of different proof of acts. I know that there's a lot of people doing proof of authority experiments right now, which are super interesting. And I think that I guess I'll put it this way. What excites me most about the next couple of years is watching how this competition plays out. And I personally think that competition is really, really healthy and really good. And it really forces everyone to come up with the best possible solutions. And I really mean solutions. There is not Bitcoin, it's not Ethereum, it's not any of this. It's how can you build something that is going to be useful to people, not all the people, and whether that's low fee chains, high transaction volume chains, or Bitcoin, no matter what, is going to have value as a store of value, right? It's going to be the thing that you never move ever. You just put your money there and then you don't ever move it ever. It just grows. That's great. We have to have one of those. In order for the other things to thrive, you have to have somewhere to put your money. So I'm super stoked on the future. I don't know about you guys.
That's all good. So we have Test Loop in the house here that might have a question related to their business. Rahul, you want to come up here? Yeah, so they have a fleet of Teslas, I think the only one in the world that's doing ride shares and basically driving themselves on the freeway. So tell us a little bit about that and who you have a question with, or who do you want to partner with up here, because that's a big project and Tesla might just buy you out any day, so let's hear it.
All right, my name is Rahul Sanad, and I'm co-founder and CEO of TestLoop. And what we do is we are really looking to build the first shared fleet of vehicles. And Teslas are particularly well suited for this for two reasons. One is they have electric drivetrains, which means every additional mile is virtually free. And secondly, they're pervasive data feeds that let you monitor and control them, which means any car in the world we can open, we can look at the door state, we know where it's been, all of that. So when you put these two together, it creates something that can truly be on a smart contract because it is on the internet, so it can be enforced that way. And what we're really trying to figure out is, what are the desired outcomes of the future transportation system that we all want to have that is safe and accessible and really optimized around a great and increasingly better customer experience. And the customer experience for travel is so important because we spend so much time traveling and you're with people and it's social and who you meet can change your life. So we think this is the type of system we need to build. And what I'm struggling with a little bit, it's really clear to me that passengers should govern the system. It shouldn't be governed by car owners or by, random corporations or anything like that. The people who are traveling on the system should have the voting rights. So we have a concept of 100 billion miles. You get a point for every mile you travel, and the last 100 billion miles governs the system. So it will always serve the people who are the recent users of it. But what I'm struggling with is there's an inherent, it seems to be conflict behind the basic tenet of cryptoeconomics in that you're setting something kind of in stone and it's enforced with, weird algorithms and cryptography and what have you. And part of the beauty of that is it's somewhat immutable. But when you're kind of trying to build anything, and be it a global transportation system, you don't really know how it should work. And I'm sure there'll be problems and what have you, and somebody will front run something, and who knows what will happen. So how do you balance the conflict of laying out, here's the cryptoeconomics, and the fact that we have no idea how this is going to work in the future?
You don't launch a token right away?
Oh, so good. Sorry.
Yeah, we might not. The tokens are theoretical and academic. The idea of a white paper is that it's an academic document. There's a hypothesis in terms of how something should behave. We don't really know how some of these coins are going to play out. Some of them won't. I suspect that most will trend to zero because their token economics are inherently fucked. And there's a lot of talk about that, and that's part of the growing pains, the growing process. We've explored a token. We haven't closed the door on the token, but we want to learn more from the people who we're building the token for, not speculators, but event industry professionals, what they need, without assuming in a closed room that we're these hyper geniuses that are going to create this optimal game theoretical strategy for the event industry. I think that's just doesn't really work that way. And there's got to be a way, I'm not really sure how, to launch a token in an iterative fashion that makes sense for the people that it was intended for.
Alright, so just some backstory on Myetherwallet. We have raised $0. Okay? We started in 2015 with a single Reddit post. We have spent $0 on advertising. We have never, ever, ever done any real freaking marketing ever. So how did we do this? Okay? We built a product. We launched it with a single Reddit post that literally has like 16 upvotes. And we're like, hey guys, here's this thing. It was ugly. It was really ugly. It was terrible UX. Like it was just like it was a single button. It was so terrible. But it solved a problem. And we started talking to users. So now we have this communication tab open where they're like, hey, I want this. Hey, I need this. Hey, can you make it work offline? We're like, yeah, sure, let's make it offline. Our entire 2015 and 2016 was a cycle that was like, work for a week and then don't do anything for 3 weeks. And then work for a week and then don't do anything for 3 weeks. And during those 3 weeks of like break, which was like we were working our real jobs, we would learn about like what the community actually needed. And that's how we built our product. So when we're talking about tokens and we're talking about which country you want to set up in and tax liabilities and oh my god, we didn't even have a company until 2016 and like December 2016. Like we didn't have anything. And that's okay. Okay? Don't put everything so far ahead of where you're at, because as you're building, you will learn so much about the community, so much about your users, so much about yourself, so much about the people that you're working with, about the technology, about everything. And when that problem actually comes up, you'll be in such a better position to actually deal with it. If you had told me in like August of 2015 that I would be the CEO of a company with 20 people working for me, that I would be paying like real salaries and their livelihoods depend on me, I would have literally like run away and told you that you were batshit crazy. Okay? And somehow I'm doing it, and somehow people, I don't know, I'm like a good boss, right? Like I'm figuring out, I was like, oh, and that's just one of the problems that we've dealt with. We've dealt with the DAO. We spent so much time building things for the DAO, and then the DAO literally blew up, and we're like, okay. And now the community needs a way to withdraw their Ether from the DAO, the rescue DAO funds. This is how a product should be built, in my opinion. If you raise all this money before and you plan and plan and plan and plan and plan and think that this is going to be this perfect thing and you have it all figured out and all of the research and all the hypotheses say this, your user on the very first day is going to be like, yo, here's my private key, what am I doing? And you're going to be like, wait, don't send me that. What? Are you crazy? And you're going to have to throw everything that you thought you knew out the window anyways and start from scratch. So just don't do any of that first. Just start little, build, talk to your users, iterate, and see what happens and solve problems. And then one last thing, sorry, I know I'm going forever. I don't think it's super important to have every little mechanism worked out beforehand. I don't think it's super important that you have to be 100% decentralized beforehand. I think one of the biggest lessons that we learned from the DAO was that trying to go for this perfect, ideal, decentralized thing can have really, really bad results. So taking that in an iterative approach and not trying to be perfect up front is fine. The most important thing is that you're going to be learning these lessons about your product, you're going to be talking to users, and you're going to learn if anyone actually cares about what you're building.
Also ich bin richtig geflasht von der WeWork, Blockchain, Beach, Meetup, Party, was auch immer das war. Richtig geile Speaker waren da. Und ja, wie fandet ihr so diesen Ausschnitt? Würde mich mal interessieren. Ich habe jetzt meine Uhr bestellt und fahre nach Hause. Ich bin todmüde. Bis morgen. Ciao.